and welcome to this episode of Sadie Says. Joining me on the couch today is celebrity astrologer and DJ David Palmer, the Leo King.
I'm happy to be back, part two.
Part two. We talked about doing this and it took a while to get here because you're busy, I'm busy. I think you're busier.
I think the world's going crazier too. So navigating the world right now, it takes some time to just get through a day sometimes.
It does, and yet time is flying. How does that work?
I almost feel like we're in timelessness now. Like if you notice, we're coming into the new decade, 2020. Last decade, it was like, oh my gosh, 2010, or oh, we're coming into 2000. Nobody seems to be even like, this is 2020 coming up, or
oh, I'm freaking out about 2020.
Months are kind of like,
it's a lot. So before we get into all the questions that I didn't get to ask you last time and some new ones, last year for 2019, you released a magazine. Are we getting one in 2020 or for 2020?
I'm still working that one out.
Okay, because that was a big success.
It was a big success, yeah. But I'm looking to self-publish this time.
Perfect. Well, the reason I know it was a big success was I kept watching everybody talking about where they got their magazines from and posting stories. I went everywhere looking for them and just could not get them sold out. Certain stockists didn't have them physically in stores. So in the end, I found them and then I was sending copies back to Australia before you released them back to Australia. And now everyone's saying, is my magazine out yet?
I know, it's one of those stories that with publishers and stuff and when it's magazines, you're like, you have to put it on like a certain slot on the shelf, like for grocery stores, Target, Walmart, right? Like they're like, it's like real estate.
Yes.
Right? So the real estate was like, we didn't agree on the real estate timing. I thought put it out for the beginning of 2020 and they pulled it on the last day of 2018 from the shelves.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's on the magazine. It even says that. That was not my choice.
Wow.
So, and then it wasn't up on Amazon until February 15th. So 45 days of the first day of the year, couldn't access the magazine.
Which is nuts because everybody wants to know on the 1st of January what's happening for the year. I mean, that was why I was sending copies back to Australia because it wasn't available.
Right.
So, yep.
So that's why I'm in a position where I'm like, you know how legal stuff goes. And then once you're free of all that stuff, then I can put it out there.
Okay, well, fingers crossed we get a 2020 magazine because it has been sitting on my coffee table, the 2019 one. And even my dad sat down and read it, which surprised me, but he said, I need to know what's happening. Sure, Dad. Okay, so last time we got quite deep with your personal journey and there were a few things that we didn't get to finish off there. When you're doing Deep Astrology, which is a free show that you put up live on YouTube and you leave it there for everybody, it's obviously available on High Vibe TV, but it's not part of that whole thing. People don't need to subscribe for it, even though they should subscribe to High Vibe. But during your Deep Astrologies, you get really personal. And this was why I started asking about your journey and the homelessness and all of that. Do you find it tough getting that deep and that real when you're doing those?
I find it tough for it to not be that deep or real. Like, I feel like that's why I called it Deep Astrology. It's much more than just going really deep into the astrology, not a lot of this more fluff that's out there now, because now astrology's become hot, but a lot of it are memes and just quick little, like, the blood moon, the harvest moon and all this stuff. And I'm just like, no. Let's look at all this other stuff going on. But the deepness is also like, I'm trying to hit people directly into the deepest part of their soul and get through all the like mundane reality, weird stuff and hit them where they know, how the heck does he know what I'm feeling right now?
Well, it's kind of like a therapist that sits there and will say, how do you feel? How do you feel? But not talk about anything real that they've experienced to let you know that they empathize with you. And when I'm watching you, and there are obviously weeks that resonate with me more than others, but there are times where I sit there and go, yeah, that's exactly what I'm feeling. But you have also talked about the traditional astrology community not necessarily embracing the way you do astrology. Because you'll talk about what the planets are doing and you'll say, most astrologers see it this way, but I see it this way and this is why. How does that affect you? Or does it?
Well, it used to affect me a lot because the traditional astrology community pretty much blackmailed or blacklisted me from the beginning. But I think that there's also my own consciousness of like that I kind of am a black sheep and I choose to be one. But I would say that the difference was that it was like most of the astrology community kind of plays it safe. They are too afraid to really make bold predictions, bold statements, be real. A lot of them get really political as far as their side of the aisle, where I'm very in the middle.
Yes.
And really, astrology is hermetic. It goes back to alchemy, and mainly it's hermetic, which is Mercury, like, right? Hermes, this understanding of the neutral position in life of seeing the dark and the light. You have to be able to see both. And so a lot of astrologers tend to forget that, and they get on one side or the other, or they get caught up. And if it's a dark transit, then I'm just going to be all stuck in the dark. Or if it's all good, I'm just going to be all stuck in the good. And it can kind of lead people a little astray because they're like, this isn't happening. Or they get really basic, like, you'll have a great week with groceries this week or something. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what, oh my God, really?
Because that's what I need to know when I read my astrology or my horoscope. That it'll be fine when I go grocery shopping.
Yeah, it's like it's getting towards this evolution of consciousness. That's the big thing.
Have you ever regretted talking about a personal experience or something you've gone through when you've been doing deep astrology? When you finished filming, have you ever sat back and thought, fuck, I shouldn't have said that?
You know, I just watched Dave Chappelle's Sticks and Stones Netflix special, and I loved it because he was talking about how every celebrity is now castrated. They get, you know, you say anything wrong now, it's like your career is done or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, no, that is what I'm here to do, is channel the divine, and whatever that is that comes out, it comes out. I mean, it's like people today are so scared about, like, if it's going to rain here in LA, or like, you know, in another place, you know, if somebody says something that offends anybody anymore. But really, it's just triggers now that everybody has. So really, I'm going through all the triggers to help them see, why am I doing that to myself or whatever? Some people, though, get caught up in it, and then I'm just like castrated or whatever the term would be. But yeah, I just like feel like, you know what? This is my mission. This is what I'm supposed to do.
And I think I actually posted on Instagram last night that happiness is focusing on my path, my journey, and not caring about what anybody else is doing. And I feel like that's exactly what you do. But I've always wondered if there's ever been regret on the other side. So that was where those questions came from.
I would just put this last point in there. I would say that the only regret I have is, one thing is there's an old astrologer's oath that goes back thousands of years to pretty much like the old Greek astrologers, that, you know, people who aren't ready for it, you really shouldn't say. But we're in a really weird time where I don't think that they really ever thought that an astrologer could be a celebrity astrologer that goes on the media and TV and be able to do live shows and have massive outreach. So, you know, there's that bit of like, is this person really ready to wake up? You know? Because it's not a simple thing. It's not like, oh, I just took a pill and I woke up, you know? Like, it's like,
a journey.
It's a journey, and it goes really deep, and it awakens people. And the awakening process can be really fun at first, and then usually it's a nosedive deep into a submarine to the bottom of the Mariana Trench, the deepest part of the ocean, and then it sinks you deeper under that.
And I think for the people that are ready to be awake, when they go down that far, it's scary and it's confronting, but there's a joy in uncovering everything and facing everything, because you discover that there is a freedom and a lightness on the other side of doing it. But for others, it's scary and they kind of retract.
Yeah, I think it's natural, though, because we're in a world that's tried to be propped up as, you shouldn't feel anything but what we have showed you in a movie or a TV show, and that's all how you should feel. And if it's any feeling outside of that, then I'm living the wrong life, or
and everyone will tell you these days that you are living the wrong life because everybody has an opinion and everybody will come at you in real life, on social media, just everywhere. And it's a lot.
everybody's become the police now to each other, which actually creates the police state mind frame of that. Everybody thinks there's all these people controlling everybody, but what the control was let's just turn everybody into cops off each other. So that's what I'm trying to break.
Yeah.
Deeply.
So, and it actually leads perfectly to my next question.
Awesome.
You talk about the collective consciousness. I mean, you start your all your videos, you know, talking about the collective consciousness. Do you feel that the world is shifting? Because I have moments where I feel that it is, and you can almost feel that the energy is becoming more enlightened and lighter, but then there are other days where I feel completely disillusioned and there's so much darkness and horrible shit going on that I sit there and go, oh, was I imagining that other shift?
I mean, it's 100% shifting. I mean, it never stops shifting, of course, but we're at a time and a period coming out of the 2010s into the 2020s where the projection of fear is at its peak. Like, there will not be a planetary alignment this intense ever in our lives. And it's been building since 2018. And then even if you actually go back this whole decade, it really was, the 2010s was the biggest buildup of fear ever. But you got a lot of tests on courage and a lot of tests on how to deal with fear. And this is the ultimate test coming into 2020 is, are you gonna really buy into that ultimate darkness and fear? Because when you actually look behind it, you're like, man, that's an illusion. Really, it's fine. I'm here with my dog, or I'm here with my friend. The sun's still beautiful. The ocean's still beautiful. Look at you. You look beautiful today. We're here in LA, like having a great day. Like, so it's like, but there's this projection element right now, like the Great Oz. It's done really well to make us feel that it's that, when really it's a creepy old guy behind the thing.
Yes. I like that analogy.
And then really you would just be like, really? I was afraid of you?
So that brings me to Pluto just went direct last night, 11 o'clock our time.
Yes.
What does this mean? Because I'm kind of freaking out, because then the next question of what's coming because of Pluto. So please explain this to me.
So Pluto, of course, is on a very long orbit around the sun, 248 years around. And it's weird because Pluto has a weird orbit than the other planets, right? Like, not only is it off of declination a little bit, which means, like, if you were to look at it from the sun's point of view, like, it kind of is tilted a little bit higher, and it goes a little closer to the sun, and then it goes kind of farther out.
Okay.
So there's times in life where Pluto will take 12 years to go through a sign, then 16 years, right?
Right.
And somewhere in between sometimes. So Pluto in 2008 came into Capricorn. So actually this goes back to 2008 because we're still in the transit. And that was when the economy crashed around the world. That was when, that's when we started to see this change. So really with Pluto direct, this one's different though than we've had since 2008 because Pluto was going to meet with Saturn for the first time in Capricorn since 15, 17, and 18. That was a big, major change in reality about the Renaissance period coming up. And that was also the separation from the Catholic Church and Protestant churches of what we know today that followed that transit. So yeah, it takes some time though with Capricorn. It's like a long, old, kind of man who's got all this wisdom, but he's like slowly making the plan work in the background. But with Pluto coming direct now, it's going to meet with Saturn for the first time, not just only in Capricorn, but if we look at the last transit of Pluto and Saturn, it was in Libra in 82 and 83, which was about relationships and how the last, plus 30 years of relationships being, I don't even know what else to say except, what a joke was that, right? So that's where the joke is now coming into the way the world works, government, structures, laws. You're going to have to see as you feel this now that there is also in the consciousness of individuals, control is our dumbest aspect of ourselves. We're blocking ourselves from the biggest things from our weird control issues. So it's so the governments and the way that the world is reflecting control. Individually, people and their control is blocking the ultimate happiness and love. Like people get invited now all the time. It's like, no, because I really want to like sit here and like pick my scab and like watch Netflix or something and then see the picture on Instagram and go, I should have gone, because I had this control of like, it wasn't exactly at 8:30 when I wanted it to be, 8:30, it was at 8:15, you know what I mean? Like, so people start to get this like control, or something beautiful shows up in your life and you're like, yeah, but I can't control that really the way I want to. Right. So the scary part is actually that, are people ready to let go of control and let the universe kind of take over, opposed to us being so controlled by the wheel of life,
right?
That we're in control of life.
Okay, so then coming in 2020, January 2020, and you have been talking about this from the end of 2017, beginning of 2018, it is the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, correct? What does that mean? Because I'm a little bit scared.
Well,
I don't know if I should be, but that's how I feel.
Okay, so we'll just take the really basics. So Saturn rules structures, and it rules the ruler of this reality, because Saturn's the last planet we can see with our eyes. So Saturn typically has always been understood as Kronos in old mythology, who is the ruler of time. But if you think about Saturn's on a 30-year orbit around the sun. It's technically 29 and a half years. But what it is that there is this controller that sees everything. Like, he always thought he was in control. But then we found outer planets in the 1700s, 1800s, and 1900s. We found Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And so what happened was this new awakening started to happen beyond just what reality is over the last, I guess you could say, 250 some odd years. So with Pluto on top of Saturn, whenever this happens, Pluto is intense. It is the death and life regeneration force. And Saturn's this structure of reality. So it's basically a complete destruction energetically of the way that reality is structured. We are on a structure basis since the last time these two met in Capricorn, since the 1500s. The whole idea of like kings and queens and the church and the state and how people were trying to express themselves but not really able to. So there's a breaking point. It's a positive because we're about to define what the new world will look like for hundreds and hundreds of years. But the negative in it is that people have to face this, like, can you really let go of the way things have been when actually they're not the way you've wanted them to be, but it's almost like we're fooled into thinking that we are.
Right. So it's a lot.
It's a lot. I mean, the other thing is Saturn and Pluto are typically called malefic planets, which there's benefic and malefic. And malefic tends to feel like this kind of more evil or darker thing, when really it's much more of like, no, this is the guys that are going to come clean up the mess. Because we always like kind of associate the guys who take out the trash or the grave diggers or all these kind of energies in life as like, I don't want to do that. But really, these guys, that's what they're coming here to do. So it's scary when, you're at your beautiful house or wherever you're at and some, person comes in to like, with a drill and like, go, we're going to take this all out. That's what's happening to reality. Or when you get your teeth worked on, Saturn rules the teeth, rules the bones. Why are we so scared when we get a root canal? There's a root canal on reality of control, systems, government, and all that. It's gnarly.
So good times ahead. So people have been asking, every time I put it out to all of our followers to say questions for you, they all ask the same thing. When is this energy going to shift? And I know that you've said that this energy is here to stay and this is our new normal. Will it get easier as we adjust to this energy, or will it always feel, I guess, this heavy?
I mean, it'd be like if you lived in the mountains your whole life and then they just threw you out in the middle of the desert. So it's like, when am I going to get that really nice crisp air again and not this dry heat with the, there's no trees anywhere. It's just cactus. Well, eventually you'll start to see the blue and the greens and the purples on the sunset, and you'll start singing some country music and you'll start really enjoying the landscape. People are just going to have to learn to just enjoy this new landscape, and it does get easier.
So it's just a timing thing. We just have to sort of sit in it for a while.
I mean, imagine like in the just even like thinking the 1700s, like I wear tight pants and so did the founding fathers. But, you know, like people come up to me now and be like, dude, you're wearing some tight pants. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, maybe I should have lived in the 1700s. You know what I mean? But like, there's this whole thing of like, you know, there's things that like people probably are like, man, I used to love to write with an ink-quilled pen. When was the last time somebody did that, right? So, or like even right now, I think it was funny. Dave Chappelle's thing last night I was watching, it was like, you know, with the whole Jesse Smollett thing and how he claimed that people came with ropes on him. And he's like, when was the last time you saw anybody in Chicago with some rope? Who even has rope anymore? Right? It's like, okay, you have to start thinking, and that's a very Capricornian thing. Capricorn actually rules hemp as a plant, but not the marijuana side, the hemp and the ropes with boats. And, you know, like, who's got rope hanging around anymore? It's like now today, you know, if you went to CVS and be like, we don't have rope. Like you would have to like go to like Home Depot.
Well, because what would you need rope for?
What do you need rope for anymore? So it's like, there's these things that are all changing and it's just like, get used to them.
Yes. Oh my God, we're running out of time again. Maybe there's part 3 in all of this. I feel like our conversations will never stop. Okay, so I want to ask you 2 last questions. First one is, we didn't touch on this last time, but a prediction you have made before was Trump won't run in 2020.
Yes.
And you also said on the other side of that, that you saw Oprah being a part of the race, even if she wasn't running for president. Do you still think?
I still believe 100% in both.
Right.
I don't think that Trump will be impeached personally. I think it'll be.
Oh, you don't?
No, I think it's going to be a health situation for him. There's a lot of stress for any human being to take, whether you like him or not. 2, Oprah's chart's about to pop off here in December. And if you look at the Democratic race, it's a joke. Like, let's just be blunt. Like, there's not, they can't even get ratings. Like, nobody even is really supporting them. And Trump just raised $125 million with the Republican Party just in the last week. So he's just outrunning all of them. So they need somebody to come up to what they believe is going to be a Trump. And she's kind of been in the background, kind of waiting. Her chart's about to pop off, so.
Oh, I wish we had more time. I so want to go into this. A question from Stephen810. Does astrology impact our dreams, and is it more likely to induce nightmares at particular times?
Astrology 100% impacts your dreams, and it also, you can use your dreams to also use astrology to understand your dreams. But yes, like there's times in your chart or even in the reality that there's going to be times when the dreams are going to be portals to different darker spaces like nightmares, especially when we went through major Scorpio transits. It'll be a little bit like that, but it will like rise you up, you know, and then there's other times where it could be like really positive stuff. So, but yes, dreams are actually the secret to life.
And your own subconscious.
Everything is there.
Can I tell you how twisted mine is? The dreams are incredible.
Well, if you have a dream about somebody and you don't reach out to them, you're doing a disservice to humanity.
Oh, I never thought of that.
But, you know, today this disservice to humanity is what you eat or what you wear or that you are this race or da-da-da-da-da-da. These are the problems. The biggest disservice is one of them is not saying, I had a dream about you, what's going on with you, and checking in with people for real and deep. So.
Noted. Well, David, thank you so much for coming in for part 2. There may be a part 3. People need to check out High Vibe TV. We've got your Insta handle on the screen.
Awesome.
So thank you so much. Until next time, I'm Natalie Sady, and this is Sadie Says.